Hey there and welcome back to Skylines 2. In today's video we are going to build an international airport, and this actually is from my Gamescom livestream. So that's no new footage, this is just the speed build of the already existing livestream. So if you do not want to watch 1.5 hours, here you go, and I'm gonna talk you through what I've built to make it look like that. Obviously, we have to start speaking about the elephant in the room. This has been a live stream where I am literally sitting 50 meters above ground, hanging on a crane, as you can tell from the footage to the top right. So I, obviously couldn't cut out my face because that's in the stream. Now, this build has been obviously rushed, however you want to call that. I wanted to test as much as possible, so I didn't have the time to do this. However, I had time to play the game in advance. I have early access to the game so that I'm able to prepare for the live stream and give feedback and stuff like that, which is super helpful, but it also enabled me to figure out a couple of things. However, this will always result in a stressy stream because you want to show off so much. But what I can already tell is that this is a lot more free and a lot more amazing to play than many people in the chat have guessed. It might have seemed a bit weird, but obviously it's, at the end of the day, it is a city builder game, and it is a bit of fiddly here and there. You need to do certain things to do whatever you want at the end of the day. It hasn't been different in Cities Skylines 1, by the way. It hasn't been different with mods. Sometimes mods helped to achieve a certain goal in a quicker, in a short amount of time, but without them, sometimes it was more stable. Whatever, there's always a pro and con. But what I will say though is that this game feels so much more stable. I have been pushing this year to build like an airport city, just a bit inspired by Düsseldorf, which is kind of fun to say because we've been streaming in Cologne. Well, if you don't know, there's there's like a little bit of a fight going on between those two cities. Not like actual fight, but people, it's like living close. It's like in Manchester and stuff like that, or London and blah blah. Yeah, there's kind of a bit of a rivalry between, but inspired by the Düsseldorf airport, I wanted to do something, and this is also why I took the international airport and the I think the city airport it is, and put them next to each other as if they were one complex, and then put a train station down which brought the people from one terminal to the other. I should have taken the tram for that too, but I decided to go for the subway in this case. Now it's been very fun to build, but as you can tell, there is also a lot more kind of flexibility in what you do, and this simply is because of the way this game handles right now. In general, like everything that is related to building tracks, whether it's going to be the train track, or if it's the pathing, or if it's the road tracks, actually like the roads, this tool has become so powerful, and the only thing I'm actually missing is Move It. But apart from that, this is everything you need. Like the precision tool is included in the base game, the parallel road mode is included in the base game, you have all the different snapping options that you had with some mods. There's everything you can wish for, and I also had the feeling that there is a lot more precision going on generally in what you build. The sole reason why this is messed up is because I wasn't too precise, but you can actually tell how quickly I could pull off certain things here and there, and plopping down some roundabouts in a second, you'll see. This, by the way, over here, I've seen people figuring out, or like pointing out this specific junction over here was just my mistake, because now you can actually align the different roads to the different lines or lanes on the road. So if I take the further on the right hand side, that would have been correct, but I misclicked during the stream, so that's why. But yeah, you cannot add trees everywhere, as you can see. You can you can drop down the road options. I gotta say, this is one of the best changes. It doesn't feel like in the first glance, but having the option to add these props to the street with a menu might feel odd at the beginning because we don't really have that many options, but I think it's going to be a blast once there's more stuff added in the future, whether it's going to be through official DLCs or modding or whatnot. They will be able to be put in that menu, and so you can change entire streets with one click, except then going in and doing that all manually. So that is cool. I also played around a little bit here with the path and pedestrian ways. Something went wrong there. I was not sure what exactly I did wrong with the pedestrian overpath, but there obviously are a couple of overpath options, which is pretty cool as well, that you can utilize them for the pedestrians. There is also like an option to have like a huge pedestrian walkway, which is as wide as a road is. I didn't show that off in here, but you have the option to do that, and you can very easily click these things together. You have very easy access to the different roads afterwards as well. The upgrade tool is amazing. You can also plop down, you'll see that later in the footage, train tracks can be put up on the road with the update tool. I didn't figure that out in my early access. I'm as stupid. I don't know why exactly I didn't, but yeah. And as you can tell over here, also building inclines is a lot more flexible this time. This specific example over here, I don't know what I messed up, but this was the only one where I couldn't pull it off, because as soon as I lowered it down to a certain degree that I liked it, it created a weird junction over there. But again, it is a early access version. I have to just mention that every time again. They are currently working on that. There's a lot of feedback that they're working on. So it's a very, very good situation at the moment, I would say. The game already feels super stable, but obviously there are some graphical glitches. There are some problems here and there, so don't worry too much. But I think one thing I want to point out, and you'll see that throughout the entire build, oh boy, these roundabouts are a absolute game changer in terms of flexibility to build certain things. You can do already something with them. As you have seen maybe in this build, you can abuse them relatively quickly by putting different junctions to it, and then it automatically creates the lanes needed to do these different junctions. And if there is like a part of the roundabout, as you've seen, that is left out, it creates that space. And I'm wondering if we are going to be able to put certain things in this space later on, maybe like a planter or something like this. That would be amazing, but you still have that perfect roundabout, and you can utilize this to just create a certain nice area to get into the city. I definitely did use them a little bit too often in this build, but that was just for simplicity reasons to get the build done. And yeah, another thing I want to add is, because I was already able to build like a city from scratch as well, and in the early access, basically to just train whatever is needed to the game. And afterwards I decided to not go from scratch for the stream in terms of trying to build an actual functioning city, because, and here's the reason why, this takes a lot of time, which is a very positive note. There is a lot more to do. It's very tricky to set the city up at the beginning. It's not as easy as it seems from all the videos you may have seen. To my defense, I have played Cities Skylines I quite a lot. The biggest chunk of time I have played this game was before my time on YouTube, like before 2016. I've been super active, and it was only for Planet Coaster and doing YouTube that I stopped playing it more often and more frequently. However, I always came back to the game, played it in private and stuff like that. So I should know how to set up a city in this game, but as much as people may think this is super similar, it's not. There's a lot more to set up this time, despite the fact that a lot of things got a lot more easy. So for example, water and energy, in terms of clicking things together is more easy, but the whole system is more complex, because for example with energy you have to always focus on avoiding bottlenecks for the cable and the energy flow. For water, it's a lot more tricky now to make sure that you get enough water as soon as the city really grows over time, because the demand is obviously crazy. So all these things you've seen already in the feature focus, they actually do have an impact to the game. So that is absolutely important to note. A couple of things I did not really fiddle around too much with, like city services and stuff. We did a little test in here in this live stream later on, you'll see that, but there's nothing really more to say about that. I just had the feeling that the game itself already feels so much more fleshed out in comparison to the first game, especially when you played vanilla. I gotta say though that some of the things I was a bit confused about, and this is also part of the build, part of the reason is that I was hanging in 50 meters above ground, and also the lighting. Like my session unfortunately was a bit cloudy, and a bit like the whole lighting was very awkward because of it being so cloudy but still sunny behind the clouds. You had this very indirect gray light, and so the reflections on screen were absolutely massive, and at certain points I didn't recognize the like energy cables and stuff in the back, so I didn't recognize where to put certain things. That was keeping me away from doing this more efficient. But at the same time, I gotta say also sometimes it's very hard to see certain things because everything is so detailed and everything is like so crazy that I just want to point this out. And also, I found the amount of things you can do is already super crazy and super nice also, because it just makes the whole experience feel so much more valuable in terms of having all these different options for the city services and energy supply, and you can go the full green route, how you say that in English. You can decide to go for green energy. You can try to do that with this, but then you have to figure out a lot more than you would have done in Cities 1, where you just literally put down a green energy source and job done, connect the cables, and that's that. But here you actually have to juggle a lot more, especially with like roads and connectivity and making sure that the energy is transported from A to B without too many losses. And I really love that. And the milestone thing is also very refreshing, that you can decide where to go first, and if you want to focus on one sector, for example, it makes a lot more sense to focus your city on that sector then. So you can also mess up, I guess, I haven't been that far to be honest, but you can most likely mess up by going the milestone race in one direction, but build your city in the opposite direction. That will definitely hinder your city from growing. So yeah, a lot of things very nice. And I think one positive thing I want to mention is that many people talked about the graphics and stuff, but don't let yourself be fooled by footage of the game that you're not actually playing. It looks a lot more refined and nice when you play the game yourself. I know it sounds odd, but trust me on that one. There are games out there that look weird, but if you play it yourself, you notice different things. And especially given that the bitrate of the stream is like a point, obviously, and that you always look at footage the different way, because it has been compressed to be streamed, and then it has been compressed to be on YouTube again, and you're not sitting directly for the screen, you're not playing it, you don't get the feedback from actually playing it. So there are a lot of factors why that is. Alright, so now the last thing we can talk about is actually the tram. People in the chat asked me to build the tram, and I just followed that wish because they had the idea to connect the city with the tram to the airport, which we did eventually. And you can see that you can actually do quite something in 1.5 hours. So, you know, given the build is not really nice and you would need to kind of correct so many things here and there. I also messed up a couple of things, like for example, I couldn't really figure out how exactly you'd do the station here above ground, but then I figured, hey, you know what, somehow you need to be able to put the track on the street, wouldn't you? And then I was like, okay, maybe try the update tool. And you can see I tried a couple of things, and this really shows you that I've been so busy testing the game otherwise that I didn't even prepare that for stream, and then we did this in stream, so that was really good. But yeah, it's logic in a way, because now everything is a lot more intuitive. But I just had so many old kind of things in mind where it was so much more difficult in Cities 1 that I didn't come across the logic solution, you know, the obvious one. But it is, you know, it's a lot more easy. And also there's like a tiny thing I would love you to feel when you have a building and you snap that to the grid or to the road or whatever. There is like a little wobble effect, and it almost feels like you feel it during the play. So it actually is fun to just have the building and it just kind of wobbles around your cursor and kind of actively showing that it is snapping to a road or to whatever you decided it should snap to. That's really like, it's a very rewarding feeling, and this goes like a red line throughout the entire game. There's a lot more rewarding stuff in here. There are also a lot of issues, but I'm not going to talk about those, simply because as long as they're still fixing the game in so many ways and still working on so many things, this is a test version. It's not the final release version by any means. So it's not fair to speak about those things quite yet. Many things are in the works already, so it doesn't really matter. But just in general, I felt the game is so much more accessible, so much more intuitive, despite the fact it has so much more content already at the get-go, and you have to somehow compare that to the vanilla City Skylines 1 version. I know it's not super fair because, you know, you come out with a new game and it should definitely be better than the old game, including all DLCs. Spoiler, I think it is, but that's for a different video. But yeah, so that's been it. You can see the finished airport, planes going up and down. That's been it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And yeah, if you consider getting the game, there's a link in the description that might help you with that. And other than that, let me know your feedback about my stream. Let me know what you think about the game so far, and then we talk in the next one.